In the 1930s, Germany was on the rise. The Nazi Party had taken control, and Adolf Hitler was leading the nation with an iron fist. But amidst the heavy politics, looming war, and strict order, there was something unexpected that became wildly popular in the country: Coca-Cola. Yes, the fizzy American drink that millions still love today was a massive hit in Nazi Germany. Hitler himself didn't drink alcohol. At grand Nazi events, where wine and beer flowed freely, there was always Coca-Cola on the table. It quickly became the beverage of choice not only for Germany's top leaders but also for ordinary citizens. By the late 1930s, Germans and Austrians were practically addicted to the sweet, caramel-colored drink. In just a few years, sales skyrocketed from 100,000 cases to over 4 million cases per year. Coca-Cola was everywhere, at military gatherings, in homes, and even on the battlefield. But then, everything changed. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and the Second World War erupted. Suddenly, supply lines were cut. The ingredients needed to make Coca-Cola syrup, imported from America, couldn't reach German factories anymore. Tensions between the United States and Germany grew, and shipping goods across borders became nearly impossible. The drink that had once flowed freely in Nazi Germany was now facing extinction. For Germany's leadership, losing Coca-Cola would not only hurt morale but also strike a blow to the country's image of strength and prosperity. At this critical moment, one man stood at the center of it all: Max Keith, the head of Coca-Cola's German subsidiary. With the threat of the Coca-Cola factories shutting down and Nazi officials watching closely, Keith faced a life-changing decision. Should he let the Coca-Cola factories close forever, or come up with something completely new, something daring enough to keep the business, and the thirst of millions, alive? What he did next would shock the world. Max Keith was not just any businessman. He was smart, determined, and perfectly positioned to make bold moves. Born in Germany but having worked in Coca-Cola's American headquarters in Atlanta, Keith understood both worlds. He spoke fluent German and knew how to navigate the strict Nazi system while staying loyal to his company. But by 1939, Keith's world had turned upside down. World War II had broken out. The steady supply of Coca-Cola syrup from the United States was now completely cut off. Shipments stopped. Communication with the American headquarters was severed. Factories were at risk of shutting down. Thousands of workers, many of them breadwinners for their families, could lose their jobs. But Keith didn't panic. Instead, he took a daring risk. He knew the Nazi government had strict control over businesses. If Coca-Cola Germany couldn't keep operating, the factories might be nationalized, meaning taken over by the German state. That would be disastrous, not just for Coca-Cola, but for Keith himself. Yet shutting down wasn't an option either. Keith had to think fast. How could he keep his factories open when the main product, Coca-Cola, was no longer possible to make? He reached out to powerful Nazi officials, including influential figures like Franz von Papen and Fritz Todt, who had close ties to Hitler himself. Keith used his connections to ensure that Coca-Cola's German factories wouldn't be seized. Instead, he offered something even more valuable. He promised to come up with a new drink, made entirely from ingredients available in wartime Germany. The Nazi leadership agreed and the clock started ticking. Germany was running low on basic supplies. Sugar, fruit, even clean water were rationed. Inventing a new product seemed impossible. Still, Keith was determined. He gathered chemists, agricultural experts, and food industry leaders to brainstorm. And from this desperation, a strange idea was born, one that would soon change beverage history forever. Together with German chemist Richard Kuhn, Keith scoured the country for ingredients. They gathered things most people wouldn't imagine in a soft drink. A apple fiber left over from cider presses. A whey, a leftover liquid from cheese production. A beet sugar, to sweeten. Scraps of fruit peels and pulp from apples and oranges. It was a Frankenstein drink, born out of war shortages and creativity. But something magical happened. The mix of leftover fruit, sugar, and whey created a sweet, fruity drink with a surprisingly pleasant taste. It wasn't Coca-Cola, but it was something new, cheap to make, and refreshing. Now, it needed a name. One of Keith's salesmen, Joe Nip, suggested calling it Fanta, short for the German word fantasy, meaning imagination or fantasy. After all, this drink was a product of fantasy, born out of pure necessity. By 1941, Fanta hit the shelves, and the response was overwhelming. Millions of Germans, unable to buy their beloved Coke, latched onto Fanta. Soldiers, civilians, and even Hitler youth groups loved it. Fanta wasn't just a drink, it became a rare treat in a war-torn world, offering a brief taste of sweetness amidst the darkness. But the story didn't end there. Behind the fruity flavor, something darker lurked beneath the surface, a shadow that would shape the drink's controversial legacy. Like most factories in Nazi Germany, Coca-Cola's German subsidiary used forced labor during the war. Prisoners and enslaved workers were sent to manufacturing plants to keep production running. Many companies, large and small, benefited from this brutal system. Fanta, as harmless as it seemed in a bottle, was no exception. However, strangely enough, there was something different about Max Keith. Though he was operating under the Nazi regime, reports after the war revealed that Keith protected his workers. He made sure they were fed well, treated fairly, and not abused, because he saw them as essential to keeping the factory alive. When the war ended, these very workers testified on Keith's behalf, clearing him of war crimes. Meanwhile, Fanta's popularity wasn't limited to Germany. Coca-Cola's Dutch branch in Amsterdam, also cut off from American supplies, adopted the Fanta formula to keep their factories running. In Holland, the recipe changed slightly, using elderberries instead of beet sugar, creating a distinct local twist. Even German soldiers on the front lines carried bottles of Fanta. U-boat crews, Luftwaffe pilots, and frontline soldiers would celebrate victories with a sip of the fruit-flavored drink, sometimes even preferring it over beer. In the middle of gunfire and devastation, Fanta was a small taste of normalcy. But when the war ended in 1945, the original Fanta's fate was sealed. American forces arrived in Berlin and found Keith still producing Fanta in a bombed-out factory with no roof. Coca-Cola's American leadership soon took back control of the brand. The original Fanta recipe disappeared. But the name Fanta survived. In 1955, in post-war Italy, a new, brighter version of Fanta was born, made from real Mediterranean oranges. It spread quickly, first across Europe, then around the world, evolving into the colorful, fruity drink we know today. What started as a desperate invention under one of history's darkest regimes transformed into a global brand sold in nearly 200 countries. It's a story few people know, the sweet, cheerful drink hiding a complex, shadowy past. A drink born out of war, survival, and a man's risky determination to keep his factory alive, no matter the cost.